The Galactic Unity Academy was the largest space station ever built by the allied species. It floated in the darkness above a blue and green world called 4. The station was home to 3,000 students from 47 different alien races. They came here to learn, to grow, and to become the future leaders of the galaxy. Park was one of those students. He was 22 years old, born in the coastal city on planet Earth. He had black hair that fell slightly over his forehead and calm eyes that rarely showed emotion. He was not tall, not short, not loud, not completely silent. He was, by all measures, ordinary. At least, that is what everyone believed. Always sat in the back of his classes. He never raised his hand to answer questions. He never argued with his instructors. When group projects came, he did his share quietly and never complained. His grades were acceptable but not impressive. He was the kind of student that teachers forgot existed until they saw his name on the attendance list. His roommate was unnamed. There were tall beings with blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on their faces, stood over 2 meters tall and had to bend down to walk through most doors. He was loud, friendly, and curious about everything. Said one evening, watching his human roommate sit by the window, "Why do you always write with that old thing?" Looked down at the pen in his hand. It was made of titanium, silver in color, about 14 centimeters long. The metal had small scratches from years of use. He turned it slowly between his fingers. "It was a gift," he said, "from my grandmother before I left Earth." "But we have neural links," said, tapping the small device behind his ear. "We have holographic displays, we have voice recording. Why use a primitive tool?" Smiled softly. It was a smile that never quite reached his eyes. Some things are worth keeping even if they are old. Made a sound that was the equivalent of a shrug and went back to his studies. He had learned that humans were strange creatures. They held on to things that made no logical sense. Old photographs, handwritten letters, metal pens from their grandmothers. What did not know, what nobody at the academy knew, was the truth about Park. Before he became a student, had been a soldier. Not just any soldier. He had served 4 years in the Korean Special Warfare Command, one of Earth's most elite military units. He had trained in hand-to-hand combat, weapons of all kinds, survival techniques, and silent killing methods. He had been deployed to 16 different conflict zones across Earth and 3 off-world colonies. His hands, which now held a pen so gently, had killed 37 enemy combatants in close combat. But did not think about those days anymore. He had left that life behind. The nightmares still came sometimes, dark dreams of blood and screaming and the weight of a dying man in his arms. But he pushed them away each morning and focused on his studies. He had come to the academy to learn peace, to understand diplomacy, to find a way to prevent wars instead of fighting them. His grandmother had cried when he told her his decision. She had pressed the pen into his hands and said, "Remember who you are, not what they made you." So he wrote. Every day, he filled notebooks with observations, thoughts, and small drawings. He sketched the alien flowers in the station's garden. He wrote poems about the stars he could see from his window. He drew portraits of his classmates when they were not looking. Sat 3 rows ahead of him in their xenobiology class. She was also from Earth, from the city of Seoul. She had sharp eyes and quick hands and a mind that could remember everything she read. She was one of the top students in their year, had drawn her portrait 7 times, though he would never tell her. Sometimes she looked back at him. He always looked away. The academy was preparing for its annual Unity Festival. It was the biggest event of the year, when thousands of visitors came from across the galaxy. There would be performances, exhibitions, and celebrations of the peace that the allied species had built together. Security teams worked extra shifts to prepare. Cargo ships came and went constantly. The station buzzed with excitement and activity. Watched it all from his quiet corner. He helped carry equipment when asked. He set up chairs in the main hall. He did whatever small tasks were given to him without complaint. On the night before the festival, he sat alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. The pen rested in his hand. He was not writing anything. He was just thinking. Somewhere out in that darkness, something was moving toward the station. Something hungry. Something that had not known fear in 10,000 years. Did not know this. He could not know this. But deep in his bones, in the part of him that had kept him alive through 16 combat zones, something stirred, a feeling he had not felt in years. He looked at the pen, then he looked at the stars. Strange, he whispered to himself. He did not sleep well that night. The Unity Festival began with music and light. Thousands of beings filled the Academy's halls, wearing colorful clothes and speaking in dozens of languages. Children of many species ran through the corridors, laughing and playing. The smell of food from 40 different worlds floated through the air. Walked through the crowd slowly. He wore his cadet uniform, clean and pressed. The pen sat in his chest pocket, close to his heart. He had no specific duty today, so he wandered, watching the celebrations with quiet interest. In the main atrium, a group of musicians played instruments that looked like twisted glass. The music was strange but beautiful, rising and falling like waves on a shore. Stopped to listen. That is when he saw. She was standing near the musicians with a group of other cadets. She was smiling, her dark hair pinned back with small silver clips. She looked happy. Watched her for a moment. Then he turned and walked toward the library. Crowds made him uncomfortable. Too many bodies, too many blind spots, too many ways for things to go wrong. The library's east wing was quiet. Most people were at the festival, found a seat by the large windows that looked out into space. He pulled out his notebook and began to sketch. An hour passed, then two. The first explosion was so far away that only felt it as a small vibration through the floor. He stopped drawing and looked up. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. A voice spoke over the station's speakers, calm but urgent. Attention all personnel. Security breach in the main atrium. All cadets report to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Stood through the window, he could see people running in the corridors below. He could not see what they were running from. Then he saw it. A creature stepped into view, moving through the crowd like a shadow. It was tall, over 2 meters, with a body covered in black armor that seemed to grow from its skin. It had 4 arms, each ending in long claws. Its head was narrow and eyeless, with a mouth full of teeth that curved backward. Had read about them in his xenobiology studies. Apex predators from a death world called Prime. They had been banned from civilized space after they had eaten the populations of 3 colony worlds. They were considered the most dangerous hunters in the known galaxy. The creature moved toward a professor who was trying to help students escape. The old professor raised his hands in a gesture of peace. The did not stop. Its arm moved faster than its eyes could follow. The professor fell. A blade-like bone from the creature's arm buried in his chest. Felt something cold move through his body. It started in his stomach and spread outward, touching every part of him. It was not fear. He knew fear. This was something else. This was the old feeling, the one he had buried years ago, the feeling that came before violence. The library doors burst open. 12 cadets ran inside, their faces white with terror. Among them was her silver hair clips now hanging loose. She was half carrying a smaller alien, and named Tiff, who was shaking so badly she could barely walk. The doors, someone shouted, close the doors. Heavy security shutters began to slide down across the entrance. Through the narrowing gap saw more moving through the station. He counted. 1, 3, 5 more. The shutters sealed with a heavy thud. For a moment, there was silence except for the sound of frightened breathing. "Is everyone okay?" asked. Her voice was steady but could see her hands shaking. Is anyone hurt? No one was hurt, not yet. Moved to a computer terminal and tried to access the station's security network. The screen flickered and went dark. They had cut the communications. The security teams are being overrun, said, looking at her personal device. I can see their status signals going offline one by one. Emergency bulkheads are sealing across the station. We are trapped, Tiff whispered. Her large eyes were filled with tears. We are going to die. No, said firmly. We are going to stay calm, help will come. A sound echoed from the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps. Something was walking toward the library. Reached into his pocket and pulled out the pen. He looked at it for a long moment. Titanium alloy, pointed tip, 143 millimeters long. It was not a weapon. But in the right hands, anything was a weapon. He turned to the others. Everyone moved to the back, behind the shelves, stay quiet. What are you doing? Asked. Keeping you alive. He walked toward the door. Behind him, he heard organizing the others, moving them to safety. She did not argue. She did not ask more questions. She understood that some moments required action, not words. The footsteps stopped outside the library. Stood perfectly still. He controlled his breathing. He felt his heartbeat slow. The door began to bend inward. Something was forcing it open. Tightened his grip on the pen. The old soldier woke up inside him, and for the first time in years, Park did not push him away. The door tore open like paper. The step through, its black body filling the entrance. It was even larger up close. Muscles moved beneath its armored skin like cables under leather. Its eyeless head turned slowly, sensing the air, searching for prey. It found. The creature made a sound, something between a growl and a laugh. To it, this small human was nothing. A meal. A moment of pleasure before moving on to the others hiding in the back. It took one step forward. Moved. He had spent years studying alien anatomy. Every species at the academy was in the database. He had read about them because they fascinated him, not their violence, their biology. Their evolution had made them nearly perfect killers, but evolution was not perfect. It left gaps, weaknesses. The joint beneath the primary arm had thin armor. The auditory canal on the side of the head was soft tissue. The cluster of nerves where the neck met the body was protected only by a thin layer of cartilage. They expected the human to run. Every creature ran from them. That was how the hunt worked. Did not run. He stepped forward into the creature's reach. This arm swung down, its bone blade aimed its chest, but was no longer there. He had moved to the side, turning his body like water flowing around a stone. His hand came up. The pen caught the light for one brief moment. Then it disappeared into the throat. Pushed the pen deep, feeling it pass through soft tissue and into the harder structure beneath. He twisted. The creature's body went rigid. Its arms stopped moving. Its legs locked in place. The pen had severed the connection between brain and body. The fell, it made no sound. It simply collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Behind him, heard someone gasp. He did not turn around. He was already pulling the pen from the creature's neck, already wiping the purple blood on his uniform sleeve. Stay here, he said again, his voice calm and flat. Barricade the door after I leave. Do not open it for anyone until I return. Wait stepped forward from the group. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. Who are you? What are you? Looked at her. For a moment she saw something in his eyes, something old and tired and very dangerous. Just a cadet, he said. Then he stepped over the body and disappeared into the corridor. The station was a maze of hallways and chambers. Emergency lighting cast everything in dim red. The normal sounds of life were gone, replaced by distant screams and the heavy thud of running feet. Moved through the shadows. He did not run. Running made noise. Running wasted energy. He walked quickly but quietly, his feet barely touching the floor. He found the second near the engineering. It was crouched over something on the ground. When got closer, he saw it was a body, an engineer. The creature was feeding. Did not hesitate. He approached from behind, using the sound of the creature's eating to cover his footsteps. When he was close enough, he reached out and tapped the creature on its shoulder. It spun around, its mouth still wet with blood. The pen went through its eye and into the brain behind. The died before it understood what had happened. Pulled the pen free and continued moving. The third and fourth were hunting together near the hydroponics bay. They had cornered a group of visitors in a storage room. Could hear people crying inside. He picked up a metal container from the floor and threw it down a side corridor. The sound echoed through the empty hallway. Both creatures turned their heads toward the noise. One of them moved to investigate. Followed it. The corridor was narrow. They had to bend slightly to fit. This made it slower. This made it easier. Caught up to it at a junction. The creature heard him at the last moment and started to turn. Too late. The pen found the gap in its spinal armor. The creature dropped. The fourth heard its partner fall and came running. It was faster than the others, smarter. It did not charge blindly. Waited. The creature stopped at the end of the corridor, studying him. It saw its dead companion on the floor. It saw the small human standing there with a tiny metal object in his hand. It laughed, a wet gurgling sound. Then it charged. Did not move until the creature was almost on top of him. Then he dropped to the floor, sliding beneath the reaching arms. As he passed under it, he grabbed one of its lower arms and pulled. The joint was not meant to bend that way. It broke with a crack like a tree branch snapping. They screamed. It was the first time I'd heard one of them scream. He was already behind it. He grabbed the broken arm, still attached by strands of muscle, and wrapped it around the creature's throat. He pulled tight. It took 30 seconds for it to stop moving. Stood over the body, breathing slowly. His uniform was covered in purple blood. His hands were steady. He looked at the pen. It was scratched now, dented in places. But it still worked. He kept moving. The fifth was different from the others. It was smaller, leaner, and it did not hunt with its eyes. It was a tracker. It could smell prey from a kilometer away. It could follow a scent through water, through fire, through the cold void of space itself. It had found trail in the engineering and followed it through the maintenance tunnels. The human scent was strange. It did not smell like fear. It smelled like something the tracker had never encountered before. It smelled like a predator. The tracker moved carefully through the dark tunnels, its four arms touching the walls, reading the vibrations in the metal. The human had passed this way. Recently. The scent was fresh. A sound above. The tracker looked up. Dropped from the ceiling. The pen entered the base of the tracker's skull, finding the soft space where bone had not fully formed. The creature was dead before it hit the ground. 5 down, 7 to go. Pulled the pen free and continued through the tunnels. He knew where the remaining would go. They were pack hunters. When threatened, they gathered together. They would be in the main concourse, the largest open space in the station. He was right. When he reached the concourse, he saw them. 7 standing in a circle, their backs to each other, facing outward. They had stopped hunting. They were defending. They knew something was killing them. Studied them from the shadows. 7 was too many to fight at once. Even he had limits. He needed to separate them. He needed darkness. The station's power grid was controlled from a terminal near the concourse entrance. Had memorized the station's layout during his first month at the academy. He had done this out of habit. A soldier always knows his battlefield. He reached the terminal and entered a series of commands. The lights in the concourse flickered once, then they died. Darkness fell like a blanket. They made sounds of confusion. They were apex predators. They were not supposed to be afraid, but something in that darkness frightened them. Something they could not see, something that was hunting them. Footsteps echoed through the empty concourse, slow, unhurried, calm. Then a voice spoke in accented galactic common. "On my world we have a saying, the pen is mightier than the sword." Plasma fire erupted from the weapons. They shot at the sound, at the shadows, at anything that moved. Blue light filled the darkness in bursts. The walls burned and melted. When the firing stopped, there was silence. Then the emergency lights flickered on. 5 lay dead on the floor. Each had been killed with a single wound, perfect, precise, clean. The remaining 2 stood frozen. The pack leader, the largest, was still alive. Its companion, a younger hunter, shook with something that might have been fear. Stepped out of the shadows. His uniform was torn. Purple blood covered him from head to foot. The pen gleamed in his hand. "Your kind believes you are the ultimate predators," he said quietly. "You have traveled the galaxy, eating everything in your path. You have never known defeat." The pack leader roared and charged. It was massive, 3 meters tall, with arms thick as tree trunks. It had killed thousands. It was the most dangerous creature on a planet of dangerous creatures. Its rush, his hand moved in a blur. The pen pierced the wrist, cutting through the thin armor at the joint. Tendon snapped. The creature's arm went limp. Its bone blade fell. Caught the blade before it hit the ground. He turned, spinning with the movement, and brought the blade around in a wide arc. The pack leader's head separated from its body. The last did not fight, it ran. It ran faster than any creature had ever seen. It ran toward the docking bay, toward its ship, toward escape. It did not care about the hunt anymore. It did not care about food or glory or the thrill of killing. It only wanted to survive. Followed. The chase led through winding corridors and past sealed doors. There was faster but knew the station. He took shortcuts. He anticipated turns. He reached the docking bay first. When the last burst through the doors, it found the human waiting for it, standing calmly in front of its ship, holding a small metal pen. The creature stopped. It looked at the ship behind him. "Please," it said. Its voice was rough, unused to speaking. "Please." It was the first time in the history of though that one of them had begged. Looked at the creature. He thought about the professor who had been killed in the atrium. He thought about the engineer He thought about all the people this species had eaten across 3 worlds. "No," he said. He moved forward. The last died with a pin in its heart. Stood alone in the docking bay, surrounded by silence. His body ached. His hands were covered in blood. His grandmother's pen was scratched and dented and stained with purple. But it still worked. It would always work. He put the pen back in his pocket and began walking back to the library. The security teams broke through the sealed sections 3 hours after the attack began. They came in heavy armor, carrying weapons meant to fight wars. They expected to find a massacre. Instead, they found survivors. Thousands of people had hidden throughout the station. Some had been saved by the emergency lockdowns. Others had been saved by luck. But many, too many to count, had been saved by something else. Someone else. The soldiers found bodies as they swept through the station. Not human bodies. Not alien civilian bodies. Bodies. 12 of them, scattered across the station like broken toys. Each one had been killed with a single wound. The same wound. A small, precise puncture through a weak point in their armor. When the security teams reached the library, they found 12 cadets huddled together behind overturned shelves. Was in front of them, holding a metal bar she had pulled from a broken shelf. She had been ready to fight. "Where is the human?" the team leader asked. "Where is the one who did this?" Pointed. Sat alone by the window looking out at the stars. His uniform was destroyed, more purple than now. Blood dripped slowly from a cut on his side that he had not noticed. In his hands he held a cloth, and he was carefully cleaning his pen. The security team did not know what to say. News spread quickly. By the time the Academy's commandant arrived, the story had already reached every corner of the station. A human cadet, a single pen, 12, all dead. Admiral was old, even for a. He had served in 3 wars and had seen things that would break most beings. But as he walked through the concourse and saw the bodies of the apex predators, he felt something he had not felt in decades. He found in the library, still sitting by the window. The medical teams had tried to treat him, but he had waved them away. He said the others needed help more. Stood before the young human, he struggled to find words. "Cadet Park," he finally said. "You killed them, all of them, with that." Held up the pen. It was silver, scratched, dented, stained with purple blood. It looked like nothing special, a relic from a primitive world. "It was all I had, sir," said. The were the most dangerous predators in known space. They have destroyed civilizations. They have eaten worlds, and you killed 12 of them with a writing instrument. Was quiet for a moment, then he spoke. "They evolved on a death world, sir. A place where they were always the strongest, always the fastest, always the most dangerous thing alive. They never had to fight something bigger than themselves. They never had to learn to survive against impossible odds." He looked at his hands. They were still covered in blood. Humans did not respond. He could not. A medical officer finally convinced to come to the infirmary. As he walked through the corridors, people stopped to watch him. Cadets, teachers, visitors. They stared at the blood-covered human with the old pen in his pocket. Was waiting outside the infirmary. She had a medical kit in her hands. "Let me help," she said. It was not a question. Nodded. She walked beside him into the medical bay. The doctors tried to take over but insisted on cleaning his wounds herself. Did not argue. As she worked, she spoke quietly. "I looked up your file after what happened." Said nothing. "There are large sections that are blocked, classified, but I found enough." She paused. 16 combat zones, Korean Special Warfare Command, 4 years. "That life is over," said. "Is it?" He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since they had met. "I came here to learn peace," he said, "to find another way, to be something different than what they made me." And today was silent for a long moment. Outside the window, repair crews were already beginning to fix the damage. The station would survive. The academy would continue. Today I remembered something my grandmother told me before I left Earth. She said the purpose of strength is not to destroy, it is to protect. He touched the pen in his pocket. Sometimes, the only way to protect peace is to be capable of ending those who would destroy it. Finished bandaging his wounds and sat down beside him. "I kept them calm," she said. "The cadets in the library when you left, I kept them quiet and hidden. I was terrified, but I did not show it." "I know," said I saw. "I want to learn," she said. "Not to fight, but to be brave like that, to protect people even when I am afraid." Looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad but real. "Okay," he said. The story of what happened at the Galactic Unity Academy spread across the galaxy. It was told in bars and boardrooms, in military academies and children's bedrooms. The human cadet, the impossible battle, the pen that had slain 12 gods of death. Those who remained on their home world heard the story too. For the first time in 10,000 years they knew fear. They had been apex predators. They had believed nothing could challenge them. They had simply never met a human before. On a desk in a small room on the Academy station, a silver pen sat beside a notebook. The pen was old and scratched and dented. It had been cleaned carefully, all traces of purple blood removed. Beside it, a notebook lay open. On the page was a drawing of a woman with dark hair and silver clips. Below the drawing, in neat handwriting, were 2 words. "Thank you." Park closed the notebook and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his grandmother was watching. He was sure of it. He picked up the pen and began to write.